Alston. I'm with the Baltimore City Historical Society, and I have the pleasure and honor again this year to be the moderator for the Village Civic Association's Candidates Forum. We're going to get started right away. Without further ado, I'm going to introduce the president of the Village Civic Association, and his name is Kevin McCartney, and he's going to come up and say a few words.
Welcome to the Candidates Forum. We appreciate you coming out here. I'm Kevin McCartney, the president of the Charles Village Civic Association, your neighborhood association for this neighborhood here. So if you're from outside our neighborhood, welcome. If you're one of our residents here in Charles Village, welcome as well. Our elected officials are extremely important to our everyday lives, and your vote is important. So I'm hoping you learn enough tonight to make great decisions about who to vote for. Again, welcome, and on to the forum. Bradley?
Yes. Thank you, Kevin. Okay, so the way that the evening is going to proceed is that we're going to have different offices come up. First will be the Comptroller, and then we'll have candidates for the 12th district, and then candidates for the 14th district. And then we go with the President of the City Council, and then the Mayor's panel. So, without further ado, Bill Henry, our Comptroller, is going to give us 3 minutes. Yes, and Sandy is going to be timing, and she's a very, very tough one with her 3 minutes, so be forewarned.
Yeah, that's why I'm not just ad-libbing like I normally do. I wrote 2 minutes and 55 seconds worth of stuff because I knew Sandy was on the clock. Ready? Yes. Okay. Good evening. My name is Bill Henry. I'm the Baltimore City Comptroller. 4 years ago, I came to you in the basement of St. Philip and James Church and asked for your support in attaining this role. Now I am back to ask you to support my re-election. As your Comptroller, my main mission and the mission of my entire office is to ensure transparency and accountability in city governance, spending, and the delivery of services. We accomplish this through careful oversight of the Board of Estimates, the city's spending board. We review over 4,000 items per year. That's almost $1 billion in spending. And while the mayor controls a voting majority of the board, through our administration of the BOE, my team is able to advocate across the breadth of city government, constantly striving for policy and systems improvements. When I came to you last time, I said that if more people knew how our money was being spent, we would have to spend it better. Over the course of the last 3 years, my office has pulled back the curtain, revealing how city government actually runs, and that improves accountability. We led the development and implementation of the first ever Board of Estimates dashboard, providing Baltimoreans with valuable insights and facilitating data-driven decision-making. We created Open Checkbook 2.0, that allows the public to review Baltimore City spending in a real-time basis by accessing payments to suppliers and vendors. My office also manages several departments, audits, the municipal post office, real estate, and telecommunications, all focused on both internal and external customer service and advancing the effectiveness of the rest of city government. After voters amended the city charter in 2022, we also added the Department of Accounts Payable to our office, resulting in a significant reduction in the turnaround time for check processing. And when the problem is inside one of the city agencies that is controlled by the mayor, which is most of them, it is now easier to figure that out because accounts payable has a different boss. We've also modernized several of the city's real estate services. Specifically, we transitioned the purchase process for city-owned real estate and tax sale certificates to an online platform called Buy Into Baltimore, Improving Operations and Accessibility. Finally, telecommunications initiated a comprehensive audit of phone lines across city agencies, resulting in substantial cost savings. Previously, we were wasting hundreds of thousands of dollars a year on lines, landlines, and mobile devices that weren't being used. And now we have stopped that. As you can see, there's still a lot more to do, and I thank you very much if I can get your support in continuing to do this job.
So how much time do you have for that questions?
I think you said 10 minutes, or was it 15? Yeah, 10 or 15 minutes. I have to leave by 6:30 at the latest.
Okay.
So-
6:30 is when.
Oh, then that'll be fine.
Sure.
So-
Okay, so we have two mics set up for the community to come and ask questions of all the candidates. So Bill has graciously arranged a schedule to talk with you about the management of the city's finances.
Cut it off. As Doc makes his way to the microphone.
Try to make my way. Good evening. I'm Dr. Marvin Cheatham. I'm president of Matthew Henson Neighborhood Association. And my question is more of a concern than a question. The Board of Estimates on 2 occasions approved of 2 communities, totally diverse, coming together to build a skateboard park. I'm talking about Hamden and Matthew Henson. Overwhelmingly black in one area and overwhelmingly white in the other area. And these 2 communities worked together for about 4 years, creating a plan, a master plan that was recommended by the director of Recreation and Parks, the location. We found out that our state senator was not pleased with how my community in Hamden was voting, and he decided to block the project that y'all voted on twice as a Board of Estimates. We are in a total dismay. You know, the programs, the designs, everything was approved. It was basically enhancing the recreation center, but also building the skateboard park. There is no skateboard park in any black community in the state of Maryland. 2 communities came together, and we allowed a senator to threaten the director of recreation and parks to withdraw the money. And I'm hoping that you, as the Comptroller, will put the issue back on the table. So at least let us discuss it. We came so close, so close.
Well, first of all, thank you very much for raising the concern. One of my first memories from when I was on the City Council, my first year on the City Council, we had a hearing about the need for a skate park in Baltimore. At that time, this would have been very early in 2008, we did not have one. And I remember a young woman named Stephanie Murdoch, who has gone on to much more since then. But I remember Stephanie coming and testifying, and she said, and like this is kind of burned into my brain, she said, if your city doesn't have a skate park, your city is your skate park. And that's true on a macro level, but it's also true on a neighborhood level. If you don't have a dedicated place to play, and I guess technically this is good for more than just skating. If you don't have a place for people to play, they will play where they can. I don't want to punt too much, but I want to be honest. If the money for this is really coming from the state, and the state senator is the person who was able to get those state resources originally allocated to the park, then as much as I am sympathetic to the goal, and I am appreciative of the level of cooperation that was achieved in bringing people together behind this, that has to really focus on your state senator. And I say this as someone who, I used to represent one district in the city council, and now I represent the entire city. And it's a really fine line when you represent the whole city, but there are individual people who have been very specifically entrusted with the concerns of individual districts. I have made a strong point of trying to recognize how council people feel about city issues when my office is doing work. And the same would be true at the state level, that I would be happy to talk to the senator just, person to person about this. And to be completely candid, I have. And that has not changed the situation. So I would say that this is something that the community has to take up with their very specific elected official.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor. Thanks for the opportunity.
Thank you.
Thank you, Doc. Any other questions for the Comptroller?
With the Department of Recreation having shut down all the rec centers and the kids got the city as the playground, when are we going to address that issue of reopening rec centers?
Yeah, that's I think as they say in the presidential debates, thank you for the question.
I'm going to sit down.
Pardon?
I'm going to sit down.
Okay. You'll take your answer off the air. Okay. So, to be very fair to the people in Rec and Parks, they don't shut centers down. If anything, the people in Rec and Parks wish that we had more centers and we had more staff at the centers, because they're in the business of recreation and parks. The fact that we don't have, at this point now, I believe Baltimore City maxed out at either 82 or 84 rec centers in its heyday, decades ago. We are down now to under 40. And the reality is that there were multiple points where, and I want to be clear about this, where mayors closed rec centers. Right. And the reason why mayors close rec centers is whenever the money times are tough, whenever the budget is in distress, there are only so many agencies that get their funding almost entirely from the general fund, the money we collect from taxes and fees locally. And those agencies are the police department, the fire department, sanitation, recreation and parks, and the libraries. And if you look back over the decades, whenever things have been tough, the agencies that take it on the chin are Rec and Parks and the Pratt. And when times get better again, they get restored, but they are never made whole. They are never brought back up to the level they would have been if they hadn't been cut at the same time that fire didn't get cut, that police didn't get cut. And that is something that we as Baltimoreans have to address. I understand tonight you'll be addressing that between 8 o'clock and 9 o'clock. When you elect mayors, when we elect mayors, we need to be clear up front what is important, because mayors aren't stupid people. Mayors do things that they think people want done. And if the mayor thinks you would rather police your kids than give them recreational opportunities, that is what the mayor will spend money on. And every 4 years, no matter what I'm running for, I encourage people to focus on that.
We have one more.
One more? Okay, right here.
Well, I pretty much noticed schools is not a priority.
Beg pardon?
Schools is not a priority.
Schools are a tough one because there's actually a state law that mandates how much money we have to contribute to the local schools out of our budget. The state pays the overwhelming portion of the school system's budget, but there is an equation that is written into the law that determines how much the city has to put into it. And because of recent changes due to the Cohen Commission, for the next several years, the city is legally required to put more money in every year. So that is no longer a decision of the mayor. That is not a decision of the city council. We could give even more than what the law requires, but we are required by law to give that percentage.
So there's no salary cap, there's no cap that the city can give more.
Oh, no. I mean, we could put all of our money into the school system and shut down the other departments. I mean, there would probably be legal issues around, like we couldn't shut down water and wastewater, and a lot of the departments like health department, some of them get federal funding and we just provide a local match and keep them running. But the ones that are paid entirely out of general funds, like fire, police, library, rec and parks. Pardon?
Bike lanes?
Bike lanes? So the bike lanes are paid for out of the Department of Transportation's budget. I would say we maybe spend, I don't know, a little bit, maybe a couple million a year of local money on transportation. Most of the transportation budget either comes from federal money where we have a local match, or the state has a transportation trust fund, and because in the rest of the State Department of Transportation is required to maintain everybody else's roads, there is a deal that says for Baltimore City, they will just give us a chunk of cash every year, and we take care of our own roads out of that chunk of state cash.
All right, thank you.
Okay.
Okay, do you have time for another question?
Real quick, it's 6:18. When's the one leave?
If till 6:30 when they're starting, I can go till 6:25.
Okay.
Sure.
Another question.
Because there were two other people that were in line.
I think it was her right here. She was next, I do believe.
Actually, I think you were next.
Okay. Please, go ahead.
Hey, Jermaine, yeah, my name's Peter. I live in this neighborhood. So there's a lot of really horrible things happening in Israel right now, and the city has some contracts with Israeli surveillance companies to support the work of the police. Nice systems for the City Watch program, and I think there's one they use for cell phone data scraping. I'm wondering, do you think there's any obligation out of the Comptroller's office to look at the ways that our money might be funding the war crimes in Israel?
Well, I'm not sure that I can accept all the premises of your question, but in terms of answering the spirit of it, if we have an existing contract, it is unlikely that any current events are going to be sufficient to legally allow the city to break an existing contract. But if any of those contracts are coming up for renewal, anybody who lives, works, studies, worships, plays in Baltimore, anybody can provide a statement of opposition and have a chance to come and testify at a Board of Estimates meeting if there is a contract that is being considered and you have any reason to believe that the city should not be entering into or remaining, in this case, in that contract. You are free to come and make those statements to the board. We take testimony both in person and virtually. The Board of Estimates usually meets every other week on Wednesday mornings at 9 a.m. And I guess I will put in a little plug here. One of the other changes we've been able to make is we have changed how the agenda is put out. It used to be that the agenda came out on Monday afternoon for that Wednesday morning's meeting, and we now are able to get the agenda out the Wednesday before so that the public has an entire week to look through the agenda and see if there's anything on there that troubles them or that they want to raise issues on.
Thank you. Yes.
Hi, my name is Paula Fernandez. I'm a former Charles Villager. My question concerns developers and tax breaks. We have a long history in Baltimore City of giving huge incentives to developers. There are several rather contentious projects that are ongoing right now. Can you tell me the impact of these tax breaks on the people in the city of Baltimore, and whether you agree or disagree with how tax breaks are given to developers and what you would do about that going forward? Maybe you want to give an example about Harbor Place that don't have.
Okay, so definitely thank you for that question. That is an extraordinarily complex question, and I would love to have a longer conversation about it. I will try to be succinct and say that one of the roles that the Comptroller has is I sit on the city's Board of Finance, which oversees bond issuances, and where that is especially relevant is the tax increment financing bonds that are one of the particularly notable development incentives that the city uses. We worked, my office worked with the finance department and got the Board of Finance to pass a resolution creating a policy where they will now annually do a report on the status of all the existing tax increment finance funded projects and try to open up a little bit more of that information. The question about what has been the impact, in all fairness, is so incredibly subjective. I don't know how I could do it justice. I will say that just as a philosophical point, I am not an opponent of TIFs or pilots. I believe that development can be good for Baltimore, that building the tax base helps us all. I do feel that the city has not, historically speaking, been judicious in having a vision for how we want to develop Baltimore. I think that over the decades, we have generally let developers come to us with ideas, and we go, ooh, that looks sparkly, and we check the numbers, and for the ones that have been done, it was possible to show that this project will eventually provide more benefit to the city than it's costing. And if we don't provide the development incentive, this project won't happen. And when both of those answers are yes, generally speaking, the administration says, let's do that. And I'm thinking back, and to the best of my recollection, there has been no point where the administration has proposed a TIF or a pilot where the council has flatly rejected it. The council has often made changes to the plan, and I'd like to think that hopefully those were for the better. But I would very much agree that the city needs to have a real proactive plan for how we want to develop. I would like to see more TIFs and pilots targeted to parts of the city that there isn't already interest in development as a way to spur that additional strength. But I'm a community development guy. That's what I did before I was on the council. Oh, and it is 6:25, but here's what I want to do. I want to tell, and if you have any further questions, my email is very simple. It's bill.henry@baltimorecity.gov. You please feel free to email me, call City Hall. You can just call the main switchboard because they work for me and they can get me the message. But just call or email my office, and I'm happy to follow up with any questions that you have. And if you go to Comptroller.baltimorecity.gov, the website, you can download our annual report, which has 19 more pages than what I read to you.
That's what give control of the building, the round of applause.
All right. Thank you.
That's going to be Stokes Senior and Jermaine Jones. Yes. And we have a total of 20 minutes allocated for this, starting off with a 3-minute presentation from Jermaine Jones. Yes, sir.
All right.
Maybe I need that.
Hello. Hear me? Hello. There we go, testing. All right. My time didn't start yet, did it?
I'll start it.
Oh, okay, good. Just want to make sure. First, really thank you all for coming today and participating. Your participation is what makes the city move and is what's going to make the city better. I'll try to break it down quick, take 1 minute to talk about who I am, 1 minute why I decided to run, and 2, what I would like to do. Quickly, my name is Jermaine Jones. I live in Alston neighborhood, running for 12th District of the City Council. Grew up in Baltimore, graduated from Syracuse University. When I came back home, I wanted to make my neighborhood better. Because leaving the city and coming back opened up my eyes that some things that were normal here wasn't normal in other places. So while looking for a job, and I couldn't find one at all, I decided to work for my family's construction company, revitalizing homes in Oliver. My uncle started revitalizing a house on 1500 block of Bond Street for my grandmother. He fixed it up so nice, she decided she wanted to move back into this house that her grandfather built, that her grandfather once owned. She said, no, Grandma, there's drugs on the corner, there's a bunch of other abandoned houses, you can't do it. But you try telling your 70-year-old grandmother what to do. So she moved back from the county to the city. After that, my uncle, he bought another abandoned home on that block. Another family member bought one on that block, and we ended up revitalizing over about 10, 15 homes on that block. And now that block is completely revitalized as other people came in. So that's because I have the passion of making my neighborhood better. Eventually, after almost searching for a job, I said, I'm not filling out another application. I decided to volunteer for the Laborers Union. And after volunteering for the Laborers Union, as a community organizer, they eventually offered me a job. I became business manager at 26, running that local union, and eventually working my way up in the unions to become president of Metropolitan Baltimore FLCIL, where I represent over 20,000 workers. People ask, how did I start and how did that journey start? Because I started to volunteer, because I wanted to do the work, and I've never been afraid of the work. So why am I running? Because I'm tired of waiting. I'm tired of waiting for things to get a little better. I'm tired of waiting for the pothole in my street to get fixed. I'm tired of waiting for the light that's out in my alley to get fixed. I'm tired of waiting for maybe the boat trash to get picked up. And I'm just tired of waiting to feel safe when I get home at night, walk into my front door. And I've always been told if you aren't part of the problem, you're part of the solution. So how I want to be the solution by working for you. By working for you diligently, like I've always done at every point of my life. By doing the work. I've always been told if you do what you love and you do what you're passionate about, you never work a day in your life. And I'm safe to say I really haven't, because I've spent my entire life representing people and representing my neighborhood. And that's what I want to do in this 12th district. But the only way I can do that, the only way I can have the opportunity to do that is if you vote for me for City Council on May 14th. And with that said, still got a little more time. So how I'm going to do it, it's going to take all of us. It's going to take hard work, someone showing up in collaboration. So I want to hear what you all have to say and how we can work together to make the city better. Thank you.
Good evening. We'll start taking questions. After he speaks.
Good evening, I'm Councilman Stokes. I've been representing the 12th District for 8 years, but I didn't just show up. When there's PUDs and traffic calming issues in Charles Village, I was there. When the street collapsed, I'm the one who got $500,000 to make sure they put that pocket there. When we talked about crime, I'm the one to get a business owner to buy 22 bicycles to get the police in our district. When you talk about the 29th Street Center, and they serve a lot of people, I done donated almost $500,000 to their program, because I know how much they do in terms of helping our young people. When you talk about chips and pilots, I can tell you a story. I'm probably the only council person who said that money should be put in neighborhoods the same way. And I'm going to use a good example. Perkins. Perkins is part of the TIF you're talking about. Because I want to make sure some of these neighborhoods that have been neglected get the same kind of opportunities as these developers. So I did not just show up. I worked 8 years for Kirk Smoke. My mother had 8 kids, 2 sets of twins. We didn't learn community service because it had to be part of our high school curriculum. I had to get out there and scrub some steps. I had to clean the block. My mother had a garden. But one thing my mama told us, when I tell you do something, do it. Because when you open up a refrigerator, you got something to eat. So I ain't no come by fly. Kirk Smoke, Lawrence Bell, Carl Stokes, I work for. So I learned about city government, how it works and how it don't work. So when I went to the city council, I knew exactly what my mission was. I done brought more money to this district for nonprofits that never, ever received any money from the city. And I did not wait for somebody to come ask me, like some elected officials, well, you didn't come ask me. I wouldn't have got the money. Because I know what the nonprofits do in this city for our young people. If you look at Chick Webb, when I came on city council in 2016, they was going to tear Chick Webb down and make a store and put a Y there. Chick Webb was one of the best drummers in the world from East Baltimore. And you ride past there now, $21 million to build a brand new Chick Webb. That's what's going to be on the inside. A recording studio for our young people. Because if you see our young people going down the hall getting in trouble, you know how many rec centers they walk past? Because everybody don't play football or basketball. I had the administration to give me $800,000 because our rec centers don't have no program. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, so if you have any questions, you can start lining up for the microphones on both sides. Any questions for our candidates? Yes.
Hi. So I'd like to ask you about homelessness in our neighborhoods. I think a lot of neighborhoods have some issues with people who don't have homes. What are your stances on that? How do you handle the sort of difficulty, the tussle between residents and people who don't have homes?
First, one of the biggest problems I realize in talking to advocates of homelessness is how do you connect with the people and how do you reach the folks? One is trying to track and have a place for people to go so we can actually communicate and get the resources out. But a large portion of people who are homeless, there's also connected with some kind of mental health so services that are needed. So, my first thing is providing, how do we continue to provide the resources for those individuals, and how can we make sure the resources are are accessible for them to kind of go to. I think we spend a whole lot of money on tax breaks and developers, and even, in law enforcement, but not as much to the homelessness issue, where it won't take nowhere near as much money as we spend in tips and pilots that it would if we were to invest properly.
Okay, can you pass that over to Rob?
Well, I work closely with the Mayor's Office of Homeless Service. I have donated brand new coats. If you look at the young man who was on North Avenue, Howard Street, with the drums and the furniture, I was able to work with the Mayor's Office of Homeless Services, find that young man somewhere to live. So I work closely with the continuum of care. We got a lot more work to do, but I work closely because we should make homeless more of a priority that we don't do right now. But I work closely. I go to those corners and talk to them. So we have to make sure a lot of homeless people have some mental health issues. There's a couple of them, we got no place. They end back up at the same place. So we got to put more emphasis on the mental health piece because we can find them a place, but sometimes they're not ready. And when you find them a place, they'll come back to the same location. It's a lot of work, but working with the Mayor's Office of Homeless Service and Continuum Care, I see it every day. There's a young man, Anthony Williams. I don't know if you knew, he passed away. I used to talk to him every day at Starbucks on Alston Avenue. He was an advocate in New York. He came from New York. He was homeless. He sat on these, the Continuum Care Board. But unfortunately, he was found in the house dead. And that's why I talk about the mental health piece. We can make sure they have somewhere to live, but we gotta keep that mental health piece with them. So you give them a party, but somebody should still be checking them to make sure they have any mental health issues, and that's been the issue.
Thank you very much. Next question. We would like to keep our answers to 2 minutes.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
Well, this is a large area of Baltimore, and you see how many empty seats. A large majority of Baltimore City is not here because of the fact these people sitting here probably going to vote, but you got a large population of Baltimore City that actually do not fear Baltimore City government because this is why they're not here. That Baltimore City does not represent them. This is why they feel that voting is a waste of time, because the city is not giving them a reason to vote. They're not doing what they're supposed to do, and you can sell by because people's not here. So how do you stress that?
Well, I think I know some people are disenfranchised, but we, as council people, we can't do this by ourselves. And let me tell you a story. Charles Village know how to take charge of things that happen in their community. They understand it when you're talking about a PUD. They understand it when you're talking about traffic calm. So that community itself, and I always said, those communities that need help, those communities that have strengths, they should go to the other communities and help them, because a lot of times communities don't know how to take charge of any issues in their community. And a lot of times, a lot of communities are not active. They're not active, and I understand a lot of people are disenfranchised, but I work hard in this council to make sure that my community leaders understand what they can do. I can help, but my job is to make sure they understand what a PUD is, what a zoning issue is, because a lot of communities don't know that. So that's what I do in terms of helping the community. And then what I can do now, if they have an issue with a PUD or zoning, then I can step in and make sure where it is. But I understand exactly what you said, sir.
Thank you.
Great question. A lot of it is about engagement. Not waiting for people to come to you, but you actually coming out to them. And getting people to have something to be excited about. I mean, a lot of times people hear their same old promises every single year. And doing the same thing and expecting different results is insanity. So I understand why some people are frustrated. But I'm here today to say, give me a chance. Let's do something differently. Give me a chance. And allow me to not only just wait for you to come to me, but for me to also engage you. Ask you, what do you need? What issues are you dealing with and facing? What would you like to see change in your city? And sometimes it takes those small wins. And that's what we got to shoot for. It may not be that high in the sky, neighborhood completely changed. But if we can start with our small wins and build on that, I think we can, next 4 years from now, have this entire roadmap where people who are engaged. Because they see the vision, they see their time isn't wasted. You know, because people's time is valuable. And they want to be a part of something bigger than themselves. So but that's what it's going to take, and that's what I'm looking to provide as a candidate for 12th District City Council.
Thank you. Are there other questions? Yes, sir.
Yes, thank you for having me. I'm actually amazed that I'm here. I want to know what is going to be done about policing, as well as the crime that continues to increase, run us out. And me, I am a resident to where it's done baby. Yesterday, I sent my son to the car for my wallet. And when I sent him to the car for a wallet, my son was caught in gunfire. So I'm even surprised that I'm standing here. The individual came and put 6 bullets in the individual, and I'm calling my son, who was an autistic individual, who just froze up. These police should be walking the beat, not in their cars on their phone. These police officers should be going inside the stores. These police officers should be running these individuals from off the corners and everywhere else. So now me and my family, we're scared to death. We're in a hotel because we just witnessed the most horrific thing to a parent that have to deal with this. And this was just yesterday. And I contacted Sheila Dixon and them, and I told them something has to be done because Mayor Scott ain't doing it.
So, first first of all, I'm sorry you had to experience that, sir. I just want to, is your son okay?
He's fine.
Okay. Sorry he had to experience that as well. Yeah, crime is an issue in the city. It's definitely an issue. And we need to make sure we put together proper resources so that these things aren't happening. And when I say resources, it's not after someone starts shooting, locking people up. It's like, how can we make preventative put in measures to prevent these things from happening? And the first thing I think about all the time is opportunity. Opportunity. There's not enough opportunity for the youth and for our children out here, to the point where they're making stupid mistakes that impact the lives of so many hard-working, innocent folks. One thing I want to make sure we have opportunity, especially with development and construction and apprenticeship programs, for these people who feel like they have no other option. I always say the most dangerous person is a person who don't value their own life. Who don't have something to live for. And if they don't value their own, how are they going to value yours? And how do you take those individuals and provide them with opportunities? And that's something that I've done as working with the laborers union. It's providing job opportunities, apprenticeship programs, construction. I've gotten kids off the corner and completely changed their life around through an apprenticeship program. I always say, if you give a kid a 60-pound jackhammer and ask him to use that 8 hours a day, he's not going back out in that corner. He's going home and going to sleep because he's exhausted. But he's not going back to it because now he got another way to provide for his family and for his little brother. So one of the biggest things I want to do is provide job opportunities and construction pathway. But I'm sorry for that, and I thank God that you're safe and you're with us today.
Sir, our prayers go out to your family, but I'm the only council person to talk about accountability.
Yeah.
I don't bite my tongue. I'm honest I represent people in the city council. If you watch the news, when we talk about safety outside, our kids not safe inside. Because we the only jurisdiction in this system in Maryland that our officers got to put their weapons up. And my question was, what about if we have an active shooter, like what happened in Texas? Well, we don't wait for that to happen. We got teachers, we got students in the schools. I talk to teachers, scared to death. I talk to the school police, ask them, if you have an active shooter, your gun is in the locker room, in the locker. What are you going to do? You know what they said? I'm running with the students. So when we talk about outside, what about when we send our kids to school? I'm the only council person that says there has to be some accountability for some of this crime in the city. Because I can guarantee you, for some accountability, your shootings will go down. Your murders will go down. Your carjackings. Right now, there's none. There's none. I go over to Charles Hickey with a gentleman, a friend of mine, Todd Scott, and talk to them young men. You know what we do? We take them up to Federal Street because Todd has a development. He's doing 2 houses. We showing them they can be developers. We showing them that you can open up your own business. So I'm doing the work. It takes a whole lot more, but we can't stop playing around with this juvenile stuff.
30 seconds.
And nobody want to tell the truth or say there got to be some accountability. Right now, we need to revamp the juvenile justice service because it's a mess. And I'm going to keep telling the truth because that's why I was voted to go down to the city council, and I will keep doing it.
Thank you. Question? We have 6 minutes to ask a question, and we'll come back.
Yeah, I want to come back to the question earlier raised about development in the city. And a lot of the TIF programs, contracts that we've agreed to as a city, have included the promise of affordable units, right? And speaking of accountability, a lot of these programs have never come to fruition, right? They've been promised. We fulfilled our end of the bargain by excusing these taxes for years and years, and yet we're not getting what we were promised as a community. So I'm curious where the accountability comes in there.
Well, we just passed affordable housing bill and inclusionary housing. Inclusionary housing ain't always happening in the city council. This whole city council supported that inclusionary housing. I'm probably, again, the only council person sitting up, the only council said, we should take that same TIF money that we give developers and put them in neighborhoods. And I use Perkins as an example. That's a good stuff. because you look at some of these neighborhoods, black and brown neighborhoods, some of them look like a bomb hit it. You know why? Because of the intentional disinvestment. Because now all the money goes to the influential neighborhoods, and that's what's happening. And I'm probably one of a whole bunch of council people that's saying we got to start looking. I got Broadway East, South Clifton Park, Dolly Park, Midway. If you ride through there, you'd have thought you was in Iraq. And I'm the only one when we talk about inclusionary housing. I support it, I voted for it. But we should be going out and using our inclusionary housing and our TIF money and putting them in those neighborhoods who have been ignored on purpose, and I agree with you. We should do more, but let me just say, when developers come in your neighborhood, there should be a partnership between the developer and the community. Don't let nobody come to your neighborhood and then they leave with all the money. You should be a co-partner, meaning if they develop it, you ask to be a co-partner. So once they finish paying all their bills, 1% or 2%, you can really walk away with some money.
Great question. In regards to TIFs, I feel like the way the city council has done it, it's been done without any accountability, without any real teeth, and without holding developers' feet to the fire. That's something I've advocated for years since the Under Armour redevelopment project, and it's been so tough. It's been tough. Even to the point I remember last year, I was at a city council meeting, I believe, and someone tried to introduce a bill in which they will look at the investment on return that a TIF has gone over like the last 15 years from the original one. And majority of the council voted down doing research to see whether or not TIFs are, whether or not they're even beneficial to the city. It's like if you've done a TIF 15 years ago, and then we have the data to see if you whether or not tax benefited, let's look at it. And majority of the council voted no to even do the research, to even look to see if it benefited. That's because it's not about whether or not it's beneficial to the city. It's whether or not it's beneficial to the developer. As far as, like, I know we talk about purpose development. Well, before that development even happened, there should have been a community benefits agreement where they required a certain amount of local hiring, a certain amount of training being done. These are the things I requested before that development even happened. There's going to be billions of dollars invested in purpose home development, as he mentioned. And so much of it, majority of it is going to be public funded. And there was over 300 families that are going to be removed, with unemployment over 50%. There's no reason why those same individuals who lived in that community, who are unemployed, aren't working on that project. And I drive by that project every day and see it get built up. And I don't see people who used to live in that neighborhood that I've spoken to working on that project. You know, so thank you.
Thank you very much. Let's give a round of applause to Jermaine Jones. Next up is a representative from the 14th District. That'll be Renaud Brown, Odette Ramos, and William Buddy Houston. Okay. Okay, well, let's get started. Mr. Brown? Mr. Brown? Okay. We're going to start with Mr. Brown. I'm going to do a 3-minute presentation, and then we'll have questions at both microphones, and questions should be brief and succinct and to the point, and then your answer to the question will be in 2 minutes. Okay? So, Mr. Brown, whenever you're ready.
Good evening, candidates, Baltimoreans, and others. I was born in the nation's capital and am Prince George's proud for 36 years. I've been active in the community for nearly 7 years. Unemployed the longest from January 2014 to May 2017. I moved first to Baltimore County, then the city. I've been in the city for about 5 years. I affiliated with the Green Party in Baltimore County and then in the city. I helped elect Barack Obama as I received 4.06% of the vote in the newly legislative district 43 as a Green candidate for delegate, and have vowed to run biannually until elected to serve you. I'm ready for education, housing, and the repeal of at-will employment. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Brown, do you have any questions for Mr. Brown, candidate for the 14th district? Representation.
You said you're running on education.
Yes.
What is your goal, or what would you do to support the underprivileged of the special education students in Baltimore City schools that continue to drown, especially those who are receiving an IEP or a 504 plan, that this current educational board continues to ignore, give services out late, contract out services, one-on-ones that's supposed to be in school helping our babies, mine being one of autism. My son has went through 14 one-on-one district aid, not district, but contracted from a temp agency support, to where as though he has also been assaulted 6 times in Digital Harbor. And when it comes down to accountability from this education, Santelia, we can pay her $400 and something thousand a year, but she does nothing. She runs from accountability, and all the money is scarce.
So I worked for Baltimore City Schools. Currently I'm working in Baltimore County under a contract with them outside of Baltimore County, but as a substitute, I have 10 years of substitute experience. I've taught some. I'm well aware of IEPs and special ed. So I'm sorry that you said your child had problems with the system.
Yeah.
I would say this because I'm in a situation where I was teaching 4th grade math. I started the school year teaching 4th grade math, and now there was an incident with a parent, and now I'm no longer teaching in Baltimore City Public Schools. And I came across one of my colleagues, and she said that, so I was hired under a black principal, and they brought in a white principal because there was a school that closed down, and we got 100 students and a lot of English language learners. So I was told that the system switches principals when that happens. So I had a white principal come in the middle of the summer, and now there's an issue.
30 seconds.
So that's all.
Have any other questions for candidate Mr. Brown? Mr. Brown, we have time. Did you want to make a closing statement?
As I said, I'm running on education. I want to make sure that the funding for this blueprint that the system is forced now to allocate a lot of money to is properly used. I also want to continue my councilwoman Ramos' work on housing. As I prepare to go out in the neighborhood, there's a lot of, in fact, there's a vacant building, there's a vacant house next to me. The house had problems with lead, so I'm thinking that the house needs to be torn down. So I will continue to work with in my district on housing. There's inclusionary housing and some things are moving along. The mayor has a plan on housing, and we'll see how that goes.
our parks in Maryland, if you were to put apartment buildings or proposed office buildings inside Patterson Park or Druid Hill, it would not be acceptable. And I'm very, very concerned that the proposal calls for residential living, luxury apartments inside the public park. Can you please speak on that issue and just give me a sense of what you think about this? Thank you.
Thank you for the question. I am on the committee that will be voting on this. I have not made a decision about it because I am seeking a lot of input, but my understanding is that the pavilions now that are there, those are not publicly owned. They are sitting on land that is publicly owned but is not a park, okay? So one of the bills that we have to pass, we've passed 3 bills, actually reshapes that footprint into blocks. And it is the exact same, well, an acre difference. So that what we're doing is actually reshaping what those will be once the pavilions are down into blocks. So the difference is about 1 acre, okay? So it's not taking over any additional land, it is just reshaping where it's going to be, okay? And then there's the part where there's McKeldin Square and we're taking out the proposal is to take out the Calvert Street, spur, and make that all parkland. So that's how I understand it. So it's not necessarily taking over public land, it is reshaping where it goes. My concern is that because it is so many buildings, that people may feel like it is not for us, right? That it is still for the residents who will be there, the businesses who will be there, etc. I've actually always felt that the harbor itself, I hate that Hard Rock Cafe thing. Because to me, once they put it up there, it was like, you have to stay in the harbor if you're not, so that you don't have to go to the rest of the communities, right? No. We have to make sure that all that is integrated so that people are also coming to enjoy Greenmount Avenue, Charles Street, St. Paul Street, and I also represent the Avenue in Hamden. So that's how I understand it. Again, I haven't made a decision yet. I'm still gathering a lot of information and feedback, and I'd be happy to have more conversations about that. So.
Thank you. Mr. Brown, would you like to respond to the question? Any other questions? We have, we have exactly 6 minutes for question and answer. So maybe first, please.
Are you opposed to increasing the taxes on businesses and decreasing the taxes, property taxes, on residents? We currently are dealing with inflation. We are currently dealing with the need to make sure that the buildings that are currently not occupied are properly boarded up and everything else. And with this whole city need, especially residents need, I'm not a homeowner, but I have my mother and them here and family, and we're all moving out because they deserve a decrease in their property taxes, home association fees, and some more. What is your answer to that?
I am absolutely in favor of increasing taxes on vacant and abandoned properties. We still do not have permission from the General Assembly to do that. Baltimore City cannot create tax rates. We have to have permission from the General Assembly. Delegate Boyce has introduced a bill to allow us to have a vacancy tax. Once that passes this year, I reserve the topic and I will introduce the bill, okay? Relative to property taxes writ large in terms of the lowering the taxes, here's what I believe that at some point in time we need to do that. But what we need to do first is make sure we're getting revenues in from where we're not getting revenues currently. So that means the deal that we have with the universities and hospitals who are not paying taxes, which is 1/3 of our land, renegotiating that deal. If we didn't have that deal, if they were paying taxes, they would be paying $114 million a year. And now they're only paying $6 million. That's insane, right? And we just found out the other day in a hearing that half of our police and fire resources go to that 1/3 of Baltimore City. That's insane. So we have to renegotiate that to be able to get that revenue in. We're looking at all the tax credits. As you know, I've been a critic of a lot of the tax credits. We're looking at all the TIFs. And so once we're getting more revenues in by making sure we're doing low-hanging fruit, then I think we need to incrementally take the tax rate down. But we need that revenue. We got to still pick up the trash. You know, we still, so thank you.
All right, let's have a round of applause for Mr. Brown. Ramos. And let's go to Zeke Cohen.
Thank you. My name is Zeke. I am excited to be running for City Council President, and I am running because I believe that Baltimore deserves better. Simply put, I am proud to be a dad living in Southeast Baltimore, send my daughter to Baltimore City Public School. I will argue till I am blue in the face that we have the best small businesses and restaurants in the world. We have some of the best cultural institutions in the United States. We have amazing hospitals and universities right here in Baltimore, but I am deeply frustrated by our city. I started my career as a teacher in West Baltimore, and I taught in a school that quite simply looked like a jail. And I used to think to myself, when we send our children to places that look like prisons, what message are we sending to them? Not a very good one. And I am frustrated that in 2024, we still have schools that look like jails in our city. Not as many as we had then, but in the richest state, in the richest country on earth, it is shameful that any place we send our great children should look like a jail. I am frustrated that at the beginning of this summer, we had 4 pools in the city of Baltimore that did not open on time. That is unacceptable. I'm frustrated that we still don't have our weekly trash and recycling program back up and running in the city of Baltimore. That is unacceptable. And I will argue that one of the primary functions of the city council is oversight, is holding our city agencies accountable to deliver great results. Look, I'm proud that in my district in Southeast Baltimore, we grew by 5,700 people. We rebuilt 4 beautiful, brand new 21st century schools. We rebuilt Dipsky Park. We've seen an infusion of small, medium, and large-sized businesses. I'm proud to be the first council person in America to have passed a law to legislate trauma-informed care.
30 seconds.
I'm proud to have passed a law to address illegal dumping in the Neighbors Against Predatory Dumping Act. I'm proud to have passed transparency in lobbying. When I become city council president, the city council will do effective oversight. Within the first 4 years, we will have universal pre-kindergarten for 3- and 4-year-olds, and the days of saying that city schools are not the problem of city council are over. They are all of our children, they are all of our schools, and we need to take responsibility for them, and I look forward to serving that role.
Thank you very much. Next up will be Sneed.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. My name is Shannon Sneed. I'm a former councilwoman here in Baltimore City. I'm frustrated with what's going on in Baltimore City, and that's why I decided to run. I'm tired of the corruption that's taking place in Baltimore City. That's why I decided to do public financing in Baltimore City. I say, like I'm Sheila Dixon, I'm unbought and unbossed, and that makes a difference here. We've seen what has happened with developers taking over Baltimore City and thinking they should have more say-so than we have, and that's not correct. I'm tired of our schools not being well equipped for our students. I have a daughter in Baltimore City Public School. She's in a public school in Baltimore City. She's been there since the very beginning. But I have to say, her building is being torn down. It's one of the oldest buildings in Baltimore City, and that's a problem. Her swing space is all the way out in Dundalk. They have to get up in the morning to get on a bus, and some of them don't make it. We know that with transportation issues. There should be better schools, better flex spaces for our students. My background is journalism. I've been writing about what's been going on in Baltimore City. I'm a graduate of the University of Maryland Eastern Shore. I got my master's from Morgan State University and went right to work in our communities. Many of you laid the pathways for someone like me. I grew up in a single-family household with my mom raising 3 daughters. My sister was sick, she had a hole in her heart. My father died in a car crash, but we made no excuses for what was supposed to happen. That's why I work very, very hard, because I think about the women who would help me, who actually went before me to help us. And so that's why I'm saying that we have to have change in Baltimore City. It cannot come from outsiders, it has to come from insiders. I'm asking for your support as the next city council president. I put in bills to make sure that people who are actually on contract work in 90 days would not be fired. They actually got to say, I'm telling you, when I got into City Hall as a city council member, someone walked in my office and said, Shannon, I won't be here to see you throughout the end of this. And I'm like, why? Is something wrong? Did something happen? She said, because as contractors, we lose our job. Right away, I went to work and put in a bill that absolutely stopped that from happening. You have to give people 90 days, I said, to get their homes in order. And that's what we did. The other bill that I think was very important that I put in to make sure that our top officials lived in Baltimore City. You had so many people coming outside the city telling us what to do, but if they were our firemen who lived next door to us, if they were our teachers living right next door to us, if there were our police officers living right next door to us, there would be a difference. You would fight for us better, and so that's why I put that bill in. Most of our households are headed by single black women.
5 seconds.
And so I made sure that we actually had lactation space so our babies could be safe, so mother can go to work, and that she could provide for her families. That's what we need in Baltimore City. Someone who's not going to think about the developers, but someone who's going to put us first as Baltimore City residents.
Thank you very much. Okay, we have questions from the audience. And the answer, Mr. Cohen and Ms. Sneed, is 2 minutes for each answer.
Good evening, Dr. Shannon from West Baltimore. We're sad to say that at the end of last year, there was only one community that received an increase in homicides. It didn't come on any of the 4 TV stations. It didn't appear in the newspapers because our 2 elected officials didn't give a damn that we had an increase of 28% homicides in West Baltimore. We went from 32 to 41 homicides. You can't read an article about it because there were none written. And that's because our state senator, not called names, Antonio Hayes, and our councilman, James Torrance, have not said a word about the homicide increase we received when we call the Wild Wild West, the Western District. Those of us that are in the street, I'm in the street every day. I worked for the federal government for 42 years and then I retired. My punishment was I'm community president for life. Okay? That's but I love it. But I would say this. We are an accident awaiting to happen in the Western District. We have a bill that's going to be introduced this week. I'm sad to say, but I'm proud to say, it's going to be introduced by the Republican Party because the Democrats who rule Baltimore City don't have the chutzpah to introduce a bill so that we can be the only one that's left out not having police armed in our schools.
So what is your question?
The question is, if you get to be our next president of the council, or even before that, what is your position on us being the only jurisdiction in the state of Maryland that doesn't have armed police officers in the schools? We're going to have a deficit. It's going to come soon. It's going to come in the Western District.
Already there.
So I'll take this question. I go back and forth with this, to be honest with you. I have a daughter that's in school. I keep saying that she's in a public school. She's in Commodore John Rogers. But I don't own any guns. And I don't know if... I just have I go back and forth, to be honest with you. When you actually have armed men and women, I have a problem with that. I feel like we already live in a war zone. And I live in West Baltimore. I get on the trains. I walk through Penn North. I volunteer with No Boundaries. I'm out there as well. But to have the guns in the school, I go back and forth. When I looked at what happened in other areas, I'm like, well, thank goodness in the last incident that there was a good guy with a gun to take out the bad guy with the gun. But I really do go back and forth. I don't have the right answer for that. But I feel like I would back up with the majority ones because I'm telling you, I don't own a gun. I feel like more guns and more bullets just add to the violence that we have on the street. And I already feel like people are not the right word. People do not think about the environment and don't think about other people, and they put people in harm's way. So I don't know. I'm going to say honestly, I don't know. I go back and forth with the doc, to be honest with you, because I'm just unsure. I don't feel like more guns is a problem, is an issue.
Zeke, would you like to respond to that?
Doc, thank you first for your service. Appreciate all you do in West Baltimore, and look forward to partnering with you on some of the work you've been doing. Look, for me personally, I'm a former teacher. Taught, like I said, in Sandtown, Winchester. Right after the school shooting that took place at Frederick Douglass High School, we held a hearing in the Education and Youth Committee where we invited young people in to come and talk to us about what they felt we could do to keep them more safe. And what they said was, you all need to spend your time and energy focused on the mental health crisis that we experienced, focusing on reducing trauma that so many of us are exposed to, not just in this one-off school shooting, but the day-to-day traumatic incidents that we experienced with violence in community, food deserts, the lack of affordable housing, and on and on and on. And as a former teacher, my training is to listen. And so I spent about a year in partnership with those young people. We passed, like I said, the first law in the country to address trauma through legislation. I'm really proud that that legislation just won the Robert Wood Johnson Culture of Health Prize, and I look forward to continuing to do that work. I do believe that school police should be able to get their gun in their lockbox. I don't want to see them walking around with guns in our schools, and I, again, appreciate your advocacy on the issue.
Thank you. Okay, we're going to go to this side next.
Good evening. It's talking about the school system. I work with special needs children, and I have special needs children in my home. And I know that special needs children do go to public schools. But my question is, why is there not one special needs playground for children? The only one that I know of is the Angel Park, and that's out in the county. But there are no special need playgrounds for children in Baltimore City.
First off, man, appreciate your work with kids with special needs. I'll just talk quickly about myself as well as my own daughter. My kid, Maya, was born during the pandemic, and she experienced a lot of anxiety, and I think having a dad who's in politics did not help and caused her to have much deeper neuroses. But she was a little shy and a little anxious, and when she finally got, as a pre-K 4-year-old, to Hampstead Hill Academy, which is the public school that she goes to, she had this one teacher who every single day would come up and give her a huge hug and just love on her in a way that was so powerful, to the point where if my daughter were here tonight, she is like the biggest diva in the city of Baltimore, in the best way possible. She is loving, she is her full self. I credit her teacher and that school with making her the person that she is today. I say all that to say, I think it is a really valid point. I think taking care of our kids with special needs is incredibly important. That's actually something I want to take back to the council and love to follow up with you about it. But I think you're absolutely right. And again, this is why, for me, I want to see this city have universal pre-kindergarten. If Washington, D.C. can do it, if New York City can do it, why can't Baltimore City? Every single kid needs to start early, and we need to be aggressive in supporting particularly our young people that struggle, whether it's with mental health or learning challenges. We need to make sure they have the support. So I love the idea, and again, thank you for the work you do.
Thank you. Ms. Sneed?
Yes. I would say that one of my goals is to make sure, because we have control over the budget. It used to be that we could just take away from the budget, but we can actually add to the budget. I said one of my goals that I would really like to do is actually work with the communities. Each community is different, and we should actually have ambassadors. The one thing we always hear people say is we're not listening to what the neighborhoods want, what the community wants. And so one of my ideas is to actually have ambassadors in all 14 different districts, where actually the community selects someone. And we actually put ideas up about what one particular community needs, what one community wants. And I think that would be a good suggestion, a good start to actually have that there. You're saying that in my community we don't have a playground for special needs. We know that there are actually special needs children all over the city, and that would be wonderful. So why not put our tax dollars into something that will make an impact right in their community?
Thank you. Yes, and you'll go first. Okay.
Hello.
Yes, sir.
I've been doing security for over 40 years in the United States and outside the United States. I'm pretty much an expert on soft targets. Which Baltimore City is a soft target? It's like this. Anybody can walk through that door right now with a gun and kill just about everybody in here. You complain about guns, but I'm a professional. I know what I'm going to do with my gun. I know how to use my gun, which is the police department too. We have kids with guns coming into schools hurting our children. The only line of defense is the police officer with his firearm, which will take away a soft target. You want to continue being soft so anybody can come into the schools and kill your children? That don't make no sense. Really don't. I'm serious, I'm a professional here. I could come in this room and do that before the first get to that door. Wouldn't you rather have a professional there to protect your child, unless you got these 14, 15-year-old kids with guns that can just walk through the school and do what they want to these children?
Please allow Candace to answer that.
Sure.
Thank you very much for your question.
I hear you and I agree with you. It's just that it's just not I just am not for guns. And I hear you, I understand. That's why I said when I saw that on the news that, hey, the good guy with the gun actually took the bad guy with the gun. But I'm like, what if we didn't have guns at all? What if it was only qualified for certain people to have guns? I feel like too many people have, and it's not our fault. But what I'm saying is, at the federal level, there is something that could be done. It's not the problem that the good guys, you follow the law, you went through the permit, you did it. It's the other kids and the other people who don't follow the law. That's who I worry about. And so if we did have the proper services for everyone to actually have the service, it would make a difference. But what happens is they're able to get guns off the street. You walk out anywhere in Baltimore City, and kids are able to get illegal guns.
So don't you want a professional to protect your child?
Of course we do, but we also want to stop the whole situation, the whole problem.
That's never going to happen. That's never going to happen. It's not a perfect world. This is not a perfect world.
It is not, but we got to start somewhere, right? We definitely have to start where, and that's not, to me, I go back and forth, and that's why I said I will support the majority. But for right now, I go back and forth, and I think I'm human. That's a lot of people. It's not just us up here, but we go back and forth, and what happens is we support what's best. And we listen to our folks who are like behind it and say, this is why it will make a difference, because we have numbers and evidence to back it up.
Thank you.
Just really quickly, one thing that I would add that I've heard from countless teachers in the city of Baltimore is put locks on the inside of doors. Like, simple as that. Teachers have told me, and that's what I know in the recent contract they were attempting to negotiate, is to make it a harder target, put a lock on the inside of the door that educators have access to.
A lot of our schools don't have doors. My daughter is in in a transitional school and they don't have doors. So every school doesn't have doors, and that's why I'm like, it's a bigger problem than that. And I hear you, I understand what you're saying, but it's a bigger problem that we have to work on.
Thank you very much. Yes, sir.
Hi, so my question is just about, you hear a lot of media narratives regarding city council and city council president related to ethics, corruption, things that I think really demoralize people's sense when they live in the city. And we also were talking about engagement here tonight, and I think that's something that suppresses engagement are the ethical issues that arise in city council. So my question for you all as running for city council president is, how do you plan to set the tone for ethics in Baltimore City Council and help us distance ourselves from these narratives regarding ethics that I think create a negative vibe for how the city's viewed?
Yeah, look, I think that's a great question, and I think the elephant in the room is who is not here in this room. And that is the current incumbent city council president. I will say this. In my first term on city council, we passed the Transparency and Lobbying Act. What that legislation did is made it so that every lobbyist who comes to City Hall has to register on a public registry. They have to disclose the gifts that they give. They have to show who they are advocating to and for. They have to disclose how much they contribute to political campaigns. I absolutely agree with your premise that I think folks are just tired of the corruption in our city. People feel it deeply and personally every time we experience this, and it is demoralizing. I will tell you, I have been around for the previous mayor's scandal, and it was horrible. And it just felt like a gut blow to the city of Baltimore. I remember being in City Hall and having the second floor, which was the mayor's office, get raided by the FBI. I fundamentally just believe Baltimore deserves better. It deserves folks who are... And the last thing that I want to say about it is that I think one of the challenges, I was talking to my colleague, Councilmember Ramos, about this earlier here today, is I think one of the challenges is that too many folks who are running for government or in government are thinking about themselves and not this city. And I'm tired of people putting their own self-interest or their own petty politics above the interests of Baltimoreans. I think folks have had enough.
Thank you very much.
But I'm the only one who's doing public financing. And so that's how to set the tone, do public financing. We voted for that. In 2019, Councilman Christopher Barnett introduced a bill to do public financing to make sure that there was no pay to play in Baltimore City. I'm the only one who is actually doing public financing today. I am not taking any money, any donations from developers, business people. I'm not doing it from unions, from dark money. All of my money, all of the donations that we have gotten has come from Baltimore City residents. Over 400 people have donated and qualified me to be the public finance candidate. Anyone can give, don't get me wrong, but it will not be matched. What happens in Baltimore City, so we won't have discrepancy, so we actually will be able to run good campaigns, finance campaigns to actually make a difference, to do all the things that we have to do, to get our message out, to get our literature out. You actually still need funding, and guess what? I'm the only one that's doing public financing. When a Baltimore City resident donates, let's say $10, it turns into what? $100. When someone gives as simple as $25, that turns into $250. Listen, to be able to show exactly where your money is coming from and who's donating it is how we actually stop it. We voted for it as a people to make sure that we wanted all of that out of it. When I was on the council with Catherine Pugh, she actually said, I'm for $15. I'm for $15 minimum wage. I want to be with the communities. I'm supporting regular folks. And as soon as she got in the council, business people said, this is not going to work. We can't do this. and she did not sign that bill. It never went through. And so that's what I'm saying. If we really want to make a difference, if we really want to see a difference here in Baltimore City, I'm saying that everyone should be able to do public finance and should sign up for it. The Montgomery County exec won twice off of public financing. It works, but we need people in Baltimore City to actually support it. That's how we set the trend. That's how we make it. Put your money where your mouth is. It starts there.
Thank you very much. Have a seat.
Well, thank you for this opportunity, and thank everybody for coming out. Two real quick issues. One thing I would like to see somebody propose that, when we get the CEO for the schools, we get the police, commissioner, everybody make these big salaries, we should have a performance chart. We shouldn't give people $500,000 and the performance is bad, right? So if the schools is failing and we actually increase the pay, what sense that make? I want the pay to increase when we doing better, not when we doing worse. That's one thing I would like to see. The other thing I would like to see is this. When we talk about guns and drugs on the street, right? Nobody wants to say, why don't we have a citizens group to witness the incineration process of guns and drugs confiscated by the police because they confiscate millions of dollars worth of guns and drugs and there's no accountability in terms of what happens to drugs and weapons. And we should see that.
So we did. We actually wanted a number of things. We actually did. I think it was Councilman Robert Stokes who actually brought it to the light when we were on the council. They actually brought us in the sheriff's office to show everything that had been confiscated, everything that we saw. There actually was a hearing to say that, listen, what's going on? What's happening with the stuff that we're actually bringing in? So there was a hearing, something was held, and we agree with you. That's why I'm like, we need better transparency. That's what the council presidents can do. That's what the city council can do. It's making sure that we have more transparency in government to bring those hearings up. We're not having that. We're not doing that. And as the next city council president, I would love to work with you to make sure those things are actually happening. I'm telling you, let me calm down. I actually get on the train and ride through, started off at Penn North, the drug activity that you see there, the exchanges that you see there. I'm pretty sure none of my other colleagues have actually gone on the train and rode and see what actually happens there. How do you know how to change something when you don't know what's going on outside of your community? It's the truth. We need actually help in all of our areas, not just one area of Baltimore, but every area.
So can I just respond to that real quick?
So just real quick, in response, there has been a complete breakdown in accountability in our city agencies. And I was one of only 2 city council members who wrote a letter to the head of the Department of Public Works calling on him to either get weekly recycling back online or resign. And that is what real public accountability means. To your point, it does not mean pay increases for folks who are not making the grade. It means actually holding agencies accountable for results. We know that in the city of Baltimore, we are paying almost double the property taxes as Baltimore County, right down the road. For that amount of money, we deserve great city services. And where this current council president has not done the job is in consistent, regular oversight. That doesn't mean we have to always bang on agencies and hurt folks' feelings, but it does mean that there needs to be a sense of accountability. I'll also say this to you, which is one of the other things that we need to do, whoever the next mayor and city council president is, they need to make sure that we do a full scan of human resources, because we have a massive shortage of workers at DPW, at DOT, in our police department, in our fire department, and until we address that gap in workers, until we are honest about issues around compensation and healthcare and all the rest, and support organizations like AFSCME and CUB, our city workers, we will continue to have failed city services. But it starts with accountability, and that starts at the top.
Thank you.
Hello. Well, I'm glad a lot of people are passionate about guns in school. I'm definitely not.
So what I would ask is that you would support legislation that would kind of support the end of some of these gun bills that we have. So the bigger issue is that we have a lot of gun. Maryland, first of all, is one of the safest cities, I will say, with its gun laws and its legislation. But my question is, what do you intend to do to support some of the legislation that we have on the books and further preventing gun violence? I think that's the first step. We don't need to put guns back in our schools. We don't need to do that. I'm glad a lot of you people trust that law enforcement can. We have young people in there, and if law enforcement go in there, and what if something happens and they end up shooting one of our kids, right? So that's a big problem. Y'all have a lot of trust in law enforcement. I'm sorry, I don't have that same trust. I don't think that. Yeah. So the question is, what kind of legislation would you support to end some of this gun violence in Baltimore City?
Thank you.
Yeah, so again, thank you for your question. I'll say a few things. One is, I do think the work that we are doing to address trauma that our young people experience is critically important. I think that so much of the violence, so much of the addiction, so much of the negative externalities that we see across our city are driven by young people who have experienced high degrees of trauma. And so solving this mental health crisis is critical to my mission as a current council person and when I become city council president. I actually do appreciate the gun violence reduction strategy that the mayor's office has been executing. I do believe that we are making meaningful progress, and when I look at the year-over-year reduction in homicides and non-fatal shootings, I think it is actually working. And when we have a program that is working, we should stick with it. Where I think we need to do a lot more as it relates to guns is to identify where and how are these guns coming into our city. Because guess what? There ain't no gun stores in the city of Baltimore. But there's a lot of gun stores in Texas, in West Virginia, in Pennsylvania, in Virginia. And so somebody is profiting off of the misery that we see in our city. When I used to teach, I had a 13-year-old child tell me, Mr. Cohen at the time, it is easier to buy a gun than a pack of cigarettes. That is simply unacceptable. So for me, in partnership with the mayor, with Governor Moore, with all of the different agencies, that really needs to be a big focus, is to figure out the interjurisdictional commerce that is going on where people are profiteering off of the suffering that we see in our city. And that's where I want to spend a lot of my focus. And the last thing I'll say, because I know you're going to time me, is I also think that we just need better coordination between our law enforcement agencies. Making sure DJS, the state's attorney, the police department, everybody needs to be on the same page and stop pointing fingers at each other. That is how we can meaningfully reduce violent crime in our city.
Thank you very much.
So as someone who used to work with U.S. Senator Chris Van Hollen, we would actually have the meetings to bring in everyone across the board from all the different entities. I feel like they never had a conversation with the actual young people that are on the street. What we forget is to bring our young people, involve them in the conversation, because they are the ones that's carrying guns. That's why I say everything still goes back to education. Making sure that our young people have what they need while they're in school. Holding folks accountable to make sure that we actually get the resources. And I have to say it, we need parents' help as well. You know your child better than anyone else. You know what your child needs. And so I would say actually working with the parents, working with the schools to make sure that we can actually get this done. I'll take it back there. Our first role models are in our home. And without our parents, I really believe, and without all entities, that we cannot get it done. We've had all people sitting at the table, but what we haven't had is our young people and our parents, and that's what we need to include.
Thank you very much.
You didn't really answer the question. You didn't answer the question.
I did. You said how do
what kind of gun legislation would you support? That was
I would support any gun legislation that's actually going to make get the guns off the street. I will back anything. I'm not the expert in it, but I stand behind experts who will actually get the work done. We all have areas of expertise. That is not mine, but I want to make sure that we work together to make sure that we get the best legislation that actually will make a difference. Not just resolutions, not just talking about doing it in pie in the sky, but actually doing it and working with the people to actually have it done. You're the expert. I support you.
Thank you very much. We only have 13 minutes left for this section. We'd like you to ask questions, not give a speech or a Shakespearean soliloquy. We'd like you to ask a question.
All right, thank you, Doc, for bringing the conversation about guns. I'm going to be very quick. I don't think, well, I respect Ms. Sneed's answer. She said she don't know. Mr. Cohen, you said that you would go into a mental health thing. This will take time. We're talking about putting a gun in a police officer's hand in front of a school right now. If Republicans can introduce a solution to the problem that will take care of the problem right now, really, you guys owe the community. I live in West Baltimore. I would like an answer to the question, what will you do? She said no guns in school. I think we're talking about not taking the guns off the street, but protecting our children in school, especially as you as a mother. I think you should think about that. Or we're talking about one police officer in the school with a handgun, respecting our Second Amendment rights. If Republicans can take care of the situation way quicker than you guys can.
What's your question?
My question is, can you give a better answer about what would you do about putting guns back in the police officers' hands in the school to protect our children? This is our children we're talking about.
Thank you.
Our children.
Thank you.
Well, I think we already went back. It's pros and cons to it. You have actually a resident who is against having guns in school, period. So that's what I'm saying. You have people on both sides of it. I told you, I'm not sure that is something.
She's talking about illegal guns, not guns.
She's talking about guns, period. She just said that she doesn't want any guns in the school. She doesn't want to go back to that. So if we have opposing sides on the pros and the cons, if you have people who won't even meet in the middle of this, she's saying absolutely no, you're saying yes. And you want me to make a decision right now at this moment. I said, I'm not sure about it. I'm a parent, but just like someone said somebody can come in here and shoot us, that can happen anywhere. But I'm like, our babies, I don't know. I don't want guns around our young people. If there's a way they can have a gun in a lockbox somewhere else, they have to get it. But I don't believe in walking around our schools with showing guns. I'm not going to support that. I do not.
Police officers use lockboxes in the schools as well. Mr. Lee.
See, I think that you address that with your judges.
Yeah, I would just say, again, I appreciate your passion, I appreciate your advocacy. This is not an issue that is solved at the city council level. We do not have that type of legislative authority. This really needs to be at the state level. I think both Shannon and I have been pretty clear on where we stand on it, but I appreciate you continuing to push.
The bill is being introduced this week.
Got it.
The bill is introduced to the bill.
In the state legislature.
Back in December, Baltimore City Council voted down a resolution calling for a ceasefire. Since then, San Francisco, Minneapolis, and today Chicago passed a ceasefire resolution. My question is a ceasefire resolution a local issue for Palestinian, Arab, and Muslim constituents that you are running to represent, for Jewish folks organizing our community for a ceasefire?
Good question.
So, a couple things. The issue of the war in Israel. So I have some family that is serving there. Half my family lives there. It is deeply, deeply personal to me, as it is, I know, for you. What happened on October 7th was absolutely terrorism and was horrific. What has happened since to so many Palestinian and Jewish folks living there has been absolutely horrific. I do not think that the city council of Baltimore has influence over whether that war will end. But I will say to you that personally, I think that there should be a ceasefire. I think that the Netanyahu government is deeply culpable of war crimes, and I hope that they are then investigated after this is all over. And I pray for the lives of every Jewish, Palestinian, Arab, Israeli, every single person in that region deserves peace and deserves justice, and I hope that they get it.
frankly, if it would happen here, I would want ceasefire right away. I would not want anyone to be hurt. But I'm bringing it back to Baltimore to say we clearly have a crime and violence issue here in Baltimore City that we have to be passionate about, and that we have to actually get the guns off the street here. I'm sorry. I want ceasefire all over the United States of America. I don't want anyone to die in the streets anywhere.
Thank you. No. Over here, please.
Thank you. So recently legislation has been passed allowing Johns Hopkins University to establish its own private police force. This decision arises a lot of important questions about public safety, community trust, and the potential precedents it sets. For those candidates on this stage who support this decision, how do you plan to ensure that Baltimore does not evolve into a system where any organization with sufficient resources and land can establish its own potential private police force, potentially leading us to a fragmented and feudalistic approach to law enforcement? And then conversely, for those who did not agree with this decision or oppose this legislation, what are the alternative strategies that you would use to address the crime that is being used as the excuse for this private police force? And just alternatively, I'll also add on to there, if you do support, what does Johns Hopkins do, or what has been done in their history that makes you believe that they can do policing better? My name is Kwame Alston. I used to be the student body president at Johns Hopkins. I was pulled off of campus by police, despite my face being on the wall. So I don't trust Johns Hopkins to have a private police force. So if you do support it, I do need to understand how you're going to stop a feudalistic approach to law enforcement. I need to understand what Johns Hopkins has done to earn any of this community's trust, and it's a long legacy of breaking Baltimoreans' trust. And if you do not support it, I do need concrete answers of alternative strategies to dealing with the crime in the city, in this area. So thank you.
So I was actually on the council when this bill first came up. I actually represented District 13, where the hospital actually is. I was already not for, again, more police in our area because of what happens in our community. In our community in District 13, it's normal for people to sit outside on their stoop. It's normal for people to have a drink on their stoop. It is normal to have gatherings outside. And so what I asked is that we actually don't have it. I actually also asked that, and I worked with the senator on this, if we do something like this, what will stop someone from interrupting our community? What will stop someone from thinking that, oh my goodness, something's bad happening because we're outside hanging out? And so one of the things that Senator McCray did was make sure they put in a bill that you actually had to be trained to work in our area. One of the other things that he actually implemented in the bill was to make sure that we actually tried to get someone from here, Baltimore City, that understood. The other thing that we actually did was put in boundaries at the time to make sure that, hey, in this community, they don't want to hear, understand what's going on. And so from that aspect is what we did, and that's something as a city councilwoman that we worked with. We worked with the community to make sure we heard them, that they actually got in. Ms. Cynthia Gross, one of the community presidents over there in the Care neighborhood, who was actually in the footprint, worked with me, worked with the senator to make sure we actually see it. She's still against it, she's not for it, but we did, and that's part of it, to coming together and working together. But I'm on record for now.
I would just like to say that Zeke's going to address that, and that will bring this panel to a close.
Appreciate the question. So just so we have clarity for the audience, that is legislation at the state level, again, not at the city council. I also do not think that is the best use of Johns Hopkins's many resources. I would rather they pour their money into public health approaches to violence. They are both an incredibly important asset in our city. I say this lovingly as also an alum, someone whose wife was trained in residency there. Johns Hopkins really led a lot of the international COVID fight. They're an incredible institution, and they have caused significant harm in parts of our city. I think it's important to be honest about that. We know about Henrietta Lacks. We know about EBDI and the incursion further into East Baltimore and the amount of people that were displaced by that development. And so I don't think Johns Hopkins is the good guy. I don't think Johns Hopkins is the bad guy. I think they are an important anchor institution in our city, and it is our job to push them to be better. And so specifically, What will I do when I become council president? When we renegotiate their pilot in 2026, I will make sure that Johns Hopkins is paying a more fair share of the taxes in our city. They have not paid enough. The pilot that they pay is comparably pathetic compared to major anchors in other cities. And as someone who works with them,
I really do appreciate this answer. However, that does not get to the crux of the police question I was asking. I understand the history. I attended that school. I understand that this is a state level legislation. However, you were running to be city council president and the voice of the people who advocate for this city. So if you cannot give me a concrete answer other than this is not your conversation, I would like to hear some type of answer.
So your question was, do I support it? And the answer is no. And I told you that what I would rather them do is pour money into public health solutions, which I have worked with them personally on. That is,
how would you ensure that we don't fall into a feudalistic system where anyone with enough money and land then does this because it sets a precedent? So that's the question.
Okay.
So that's why I want my response to you is renegotiating their pilot, right? So the city has a stake in holding them accountable so that they pay a larger share of taxes. They pay what's called a payment in lieu of taxes. It's about $1 million for Johns Hopkins. They own a substantial amount of land in our city. What I am telling you in terms of not letting them fall into a feudal situation is we, the city, need to advocate more strongly on behalf of those of us that live here to make sure they are paying their fair share. Thank you.
Time's up. Let's give a round of applause to Zeke. I'm going to start by asking them to give a 2-minute overview of their positions. We're going to go right through, and then we'll open the floor for questions. So we're going to start with Wayne Baker.
That would be me.
2 minutes.
But I need a mic.
Yes.
I really don't need a mic.
I know. Let's go for it.
How are you? I'm Uncle Wayne, and I'm running for mayor of Baltimore City. Let's get one thing straight. I am not a politician. You know, I have solutions, and that's exactly what I'm going to bring to you today. Again, I am Uncle Wayne running for mayor of Baltimore City.
Hi, my name is Wendy Bozel, and I'm also running for Baltimore City Mayor. And a lot of people ask me, why are you running? But I'm a Baltimore City teacher. And for the last 4 years, I've been teaching in the hospital. Before that, I was teaching at Sinclair Lane Elementary School, where I worked for 3 years at a school with no heat. And then I went to the job fair, and now I'm a hospital teacher. They said, we have heat at the hospital. And I said, okay, I'll work here. But then after working at the hospital, I had so many students that I came across that were shot and paralyzed that I was teaching. And every time I would pull their school records, it showed that they were 50 to 100 days absent from school. And on top of that, they were all 2 years behind in school. That was 6 of the students that had been shot and paralyzed. If someone had been checking on these students before and making sure after the 3 days that they're absent that someone was coming to their house and checking on them, those kids would not have been shot and they would not have been paralyzed. So I want to work. I am right there every day working with the students here in Baltimore City. And I know firsthand what we need to face to change the facts of the 2 things that are facing Baltimore. And it's our crime, and which is youth violence, a lot of it, and also our education system. And I know firsthand what we need to do to fix that. One thing that people don't realize is the school, they have enough money. They have $1.7 billion to run our school system. Well, is that my timer off? Okay. Well, I will work for crime and fixing our education system, and they both go hand in hand.
Thank you very much.
Good evening. Sheila Dixon. People ask me, why are you doing this again? And actually, I was going to give Wendy one of my minutes. She and I have had multiple conversations about what we need to do in our schools. It's about accountability. City government is probably more dysfunctional today than it's ever been before. Not one agency, every agency. We talk about trash, If you look at the city, I don't know how you feel, but we have a responsibility to make sure that our taxpayers that money is being spent. Crime, yes, crime is going down as far as murders and guns, but every day, quality of life crimes, carjackings, car thefts, burglaries. I wish I had the time to share a story with you of a woman who emailed me that I can't get out of my head, and what's happened to her husband as a result of her being carjacked, her husband being carjacked in Bolton Hill, and now he had to have brain surgery. Schools, when the mayor says that the schools are separate from city government, no, they're not. We appoint the school board except for 2 elected school board members. So the mayor has a major responsibility in our schools. Education, quality of life, quality services to our constituents, all those things go hand in hand. No candidate on this stage or the current mayor knows how to get that done. Sheila Dixon reduced crime, cleaned up the city, planted more trees than we've had. Now you have to pay to have trees planted. Work with our schools, create community schools, was involved and active in the schools.
30 seconds.
Last but not least, and this was something that wasn't discussed, and I don't understand why it hasn't been, when we talk about mental health. Every great health institution that we have here, Baltimore City is one of the most unhealthiest cities in America. Cardiovascular, #1 in the country. Dementia and Alzheimer's, #1 in the country. Baltimore City, PG County. Syphilis, it's been around a long time. #5 in the country. For me, health is why our young people are reacting and acting the way that they're doing. And so if we work with our institution, we can create a healthy city. We don't even have a health commissioner.
Thank you very much.
My name is Chukwemeka Egu, and I'm running for mayor for the 2nd time as an independent. I ran in 2016. I'm a developer when I moved to Baltimore 20 years ago. But today, 20 years later, we still have not asked ourselves, what is the problem with Baltimore? Everybody stands up and says, crime reduction, kids carjacking, bad schools. We haven't asked ourselves, what's making our young women believe that they don't have a dream past today, and what dream are we presenting the young kids that are coming behind us? If you look around Baltimore, come up with great promises. I'm going to fix all the abandoned buildings in Baltimore. Guess what? They cannot. They've tried before, they've not done it. What's lacking in our community is equity. Equity drives growth. Equity drives justice. Equity drives just about anything you can think about in our community. The banks constantly undervalue our neighborhood. That's why this one not being developed. Even the mayor, our current mayor right now, Mayor Brandon Scott, last year proposed $50,000 gift to developers who want to develop properties in Baltimore City to make up for appraisal shortfall. For Christ's sake, appraisal shortfall is already a crime. That's red line. That is why I'm saying it's not moving forward. Without the money coming in and the right appraisal, you cannot do anything. I don't care what is proposed about fixing these buildings because it does not back by market value. Market value is what we're driving for. So in this election cycle right now, let's ask everyone here, how do you bring equity back to Baltimore? Because without equity, none of us can do anything. We talk about mental stress. Everyone knows that when you have a few dollars in your bank account, you feel a lot healthier, don't you? And again, you go to the mayor's office. Our current mayor is advertising a job assistant at the mayor's office being paid $15 an hour. For Christ's sake, that's the highest office in the city. Morally, you appreciate whoever that person is. We have to increase wages so people that work for the city should be the standard of the life we want to live in the city of Baltimore. That's equity as well. And then leadership that we're talking about. Leadership is just simple ability to understand right and wrong. Simple ability to understand what is right and what is wrong, and your will and conviction to do something about it. That's what we should be looking for this mayoral cycle. Not just coming and telling us, oh, I'm going to fix X, I'm going to fix Y. We need equity, and also we need to redefine leadership. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Hello, my name is Keith Scott, and I'm running for mayor of Baltimore City. I look at this room and see that there's a whole lot of empty chairs because we're a disconnected city. We disconnected from pretty much everything that's supposed to be our responsibility. communities is not strong enough to take care of their own communities. I would actually make your community strong enough so you don't have to look towards the city to take care of the problems that you should be strong enough to take care of. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Hello, my name is Kevin Harris, and I love speech. So, our elected officials spend too long being reactive and not proactive in addressing the needs of our citizens. They would rather kick these issues down the road than find real solutions to our problems by addressing the core causes. We have known since 1948, when the borders of our beloved city were sealed, that decline would be in our future, but our prior leaders did nothing to address that change. Under my administration, we would reverse our city's decline and make Baltimore a city reborn. We would do this by creating local jobs, eliminating urban blight, and making people want to visit the best city on the East Coast. We have known that vacant houses and urban blight have been growing out of control for decades, and yet our leaders have sat around doing little on the issues, and people started dying in these buildings. Our neighborhoods are still full of lead, and there is no urgency to find a permanent solution, even though studies show a correlation between lead levels, poverty, decreased academic achievement, and behavioral issues, all of which are correlated with increased crime. I want to also make Baltimore City not just a green city, but a verdant paradise, one where the temperature does not increase 10 degrees between the city's edge and its center. I want a walkable city so that those 29% without access to cars can go to work, shop, and travel the city, and also so we can be free from the excess costs of insurance and gas. I also would like to see us bring back the old streetcars as a form of public transit. This can attract a lot of tourism, and they're a lot more comfortable for our citizens to ride around in.
30 seconds.
Together, we will take the harm out of charm. We will give jobs to the jobless. We will house the unhoused and open our arms to the oppressed. We will turn our urban blight into urban light. We can do all this because I have the conviction to see it done. And I know we have the conviction together to get it done.
Thank you, sir.
My name is Michael Moore. I'm a youth advocate. And as Ms. Dixon stated, we haven't been in office to be qualified to run these things, but a heavy influence on what the governor is doing right now currently, a heavy influence on what the mayor is currently doing at this time. And also, I look to do things like tie in the government back to the school system and put a margin in so we can have some type of metrics, because no cases is basically being brought up about the notion of $500,000 being paid for no amount of work can be dated or recorded on, as well as invest into the Black Butterfly, put more money back into the residents of the people, because this is where it belongs at. And my total background has been in public service. That's all I know how to do. I don't know how to be very much political, but I do know how to serve the people. And I do know, because I've been out there struggling with the people. I actually see some people I serve in the community as well. So in the same sense, that's my notion.
Thank you, sir.
Good evening. My name is Don Scoggins. I'm an urban planner and a affordable housing specialist. One of the reasons why I'm running, well, more than one of the reasons why I'm running for mayor is because I'm terribly worried about the youth. When I talk to the youth as I go about, they feel that the adults have let them down. I'm concerned about them, and I'm also concerned about the school system, because the school system's current curriculum is not suitable for the students that we have in our schools. We need to do something more to make them more job ready. Another thing that I hear when I talk to many of the residents is the accountability in government. They do not have faith in the government. And I believe that the government needs to be pared down. We need to get to the basics. I really think that the city government does too many things. And we need to get to the basics. We need to deal with management, because there's enough money in Baltimore. When you look at when you read the Baltimore Business Journal, we have trillions of dollars of monies if you look at that all together. So we really need to make Baltimore what it can be. And that's what I would like to do. I would say this, I'm very worried, like I said, I'm worried about the youth. And 60-some years ago, probably shouldn't say this, but 60-some years ago, we did not think that this is what it would be like now.
Thank you, sir.
So we need to do something to bring it back and bring back morals in our family. We need to bring the family together, bring the man back in the household. So there's a lot of things we need to do, but I'll start off with dealing with the youth. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Good evening. I'm Bob Wallace. I am the son of this city. I'm a native son, born in Cherry Hill, raised in Cherry Hill, went to Polytech High School, went away to college, studied engineering, studied business, came back to Baltimore, built a number of businesses in technology and in energy. Let me tell you the problem that we have as a city. Baltimore is a tale of two cities. It's a tale of two cities. On one side, you have the affluent and the highly educated, and on the other side, you have those who struggle every month to make ends meet. 2/3 of our people in our city each month struggle to make ends meet. 23% of our people live in poverty. 25% live in food deserts. 1/3 do not have cars to get back and forth to work. If you peel back the onion and look at the issues we have in the city, crime, hopelessness, violence, kids not learning in the schools, if you get to the root cause is economic inequality. It is economic inequality. And until we as a city have the courage to face that challenge and to fix it, we will never be a great city. You can change leaders all day. You will never be a great city. So how am I going to do it? Number one, we're going to focus on rebuilding an economy in Baltimore City that benefits the neighborhoods. My plan is to invest at least $1 billion of investment, not in the inner harbor, but in the neighborhoods, to rebuild our community. How are we going to do that? We're going to use minority and women businesses to rebuild it. We're going to use our kids to be the carpenters and plumbers and electricians, and we're going to have investors to help build that. How are we going to redo the education system? 3 things. Get rid of the CEO. Get a new CEO. We're going to change the board. And we're going to have a curriculum audit to look at the curriculum in the city and make sure it matches the economic reality of the city. That's my plan for Baltimore.
Hi everyone, I'm Tharu Vignaraja and I'm running for mayor. I am running for mayor because I don't know that there's another city in this country that has a bigger distance between where we are and where we could be. And what we need to unleash that potential is true leadership. We have for too long been locked into a system that is broken, that has failed us because of corruption and incompetence. That is the story of Baltimore, but we have a better story to tell. I am the son of city school teachers. My mom taught at Poly and Morgan State. My dad taught at Edmondson and Douglas, at Southern and Western. I'm a local kid who went to Edmondson Heights Elementary, graduated from Woodlawn High, and went off to Yale College and Harvard Law School. And I came home to serve. I served as a federal and city prosecutor, as Deputy Attorney General for the state of Maryland. I ran a national financial institution that invested in mission-driven companies, and I'm now the managing partner of one of the largest civil rights law firms in the country. I have lived a blessed life, but Bob's right. Those blessings have not been evenly distributed across this city. There are people that enjoy the privileges of this city, and there are people that have been left behind. And they've been left behind because of a lack of leadership, a lack of vision, and a lack of getting it done. If you go to tharuformayor.com, you will not only see the platitudes and the promises that every candidate makes during every campaign trail, you will also see the details, the stories that ignite a city, that make it magical. You will hear the roadmaps of how we cut murders to below 200 in 2 years. How you make sure that every kid who graduates from Baltimore City Public High School gets a free college education anywhere in the state of Maryland. How you cut property taxes in half. How you root out procurement fraud. Because these are the evils that have defined the city for too long. And we need better choices than a choice between corruption and incompetence. This city deserves a better debate. This city deserves a better future. And that's why I'm running for mayor.
Okay, everyone has had 2 minutes to make a presentation and share their thoughts.
educated individuals. I guess some of y'all college graduates. In 1971, Richard Nixon put the Southern Strategy into effect. I'm going to ask the question, but it got to be like this. All right, let me do this. The Southern Strategy went into effect and put guns and drugs into the black and Hispanic communities. Today, 60, 70 years later, what we're suffering from is that war on drugs. So you as candidates, if we know that that's the root of the problem that was put in here by Richard Nixon and put in our communities, what are you going to do about the war on drugs as far as our community to save our youth?
Thank you for the question. And who was it directed?
Something though, and that is, and I'm going to answer the question, because my family faced drug addiction. I had a brother who tried to be accepted in the community, and he ended up getting on drugs, he ended up dying of AIDS. So I've experienced it, not directly me, but in my family. And so that's been a fight that I have done my entire life since I was able to, from college, when I was teaching. We have to break cycles. You know, the war on crime is bigger than just what we do here locally as a mayor and administration. Wait a minute, let me finish. Of course, we have drug treatment now that's available to individuals, but we have to start breaking cycles when that baby is born and that baby is coming into the community and working with those families and working with those individuals who are drug addicted. We have to make sure that we provide, the way we break the cycle is providing mental health support to families. Because the one thing in the African American community, a lot of times people don't want to face, is that we tend to not want mental health services. And that's part of the process, because addiction is a health issue. And I go back to our institutions in this city that we need to work on and put the fire in their feet, not just to deal with police at Hopkins, but to deal with the health of our community. And see, we mislead people about the role of city government and what our first responsibilities are.
20 seconds.
But so for me, that's how we address the issue. From that time when that individual
I'm going to end the war on drugs or not. It's a yes or no question.
Thank you very much. May I see the next question, please?
Your question was more than a yes or no.
Would you end the war on drugs? Yes or no?
I would do my part to eliminate the drug war in Baltimore City.
Thank you very much.
But if a man he has a low-paying job, and he wants to feed his family, he's not going to be out there doing drugs.
That wasn't your question.
I want to answer that question.
Thank you, sir. Ma'am.
Yes, I brought this question up earlier, but I felt like I should bring it up again to a higher level. I know that crime and all of that is a major thing here, but I have a passion for, disabled, special needs. I have businesses that I work with special needs. I even had a home with special needs. My question is, when I go out and around, why is there not one special needs playground in Baltimore City?
Now, who would like to direct that to, ma'am? What candidate would you like to answer that?
It's to the panel. Can we move this forward? Can I answer that question?
Unfortunately, you don't even see kids playing in the parks no more.
You sure don't?
Okay, because it's not even safe for kids to be in the park.
They're too afraid.
You can't, there's no safe spot for the kids to play.
But she wanted to ask.
Let me answer the question.
Okay.
Let me answer the
We're going to move along.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Everybody think, oh, I want this, I want
Let me answer the question.
Please.
Good evening, thanks. I'll try to make it as brief as I can. Earlier this evening, I posed a question to the incumbent, that is the Comptroller. He was not able to answer the question. The question is this, that on September 30th, 2020, a document was issued by the Planning Commission. It documented the goals and objectives of Matthew Henson Neighborhood Association and what its priorities were. Of those priorities, one was called a skateboard park. It said that the community voted for a skateboard park. Our lying state senator, Antonio Hayes, has gone out and said that the community didn't want it. Well, why would the commission publish it in a document on page 32 that the community voted for a skateboard park in agreement with Hamden, another neighborhood? I'm asking y'all, if it's documented by the city, would you support revisiting what the community voted for and having the skateboard park?
Can you direct one of our candidates? Go.
All of them. They're going to be mad. Who would know about the skate park? That would make more sense, right?
We really need to have new questions. So please, the people who are continuing to ask questions, please ask a new question.
Let me just be brief. Doc brought the question up at another meeting that I was at, and when he brought it up, I did some research to look at all sides. And it's my understanding that the master plan that he's talking about was not going to just include the skateboard park, but they need to improve the basketball court that's on the playground. They need to deal with the swings in the playground. And when you brought up about disabled, that needs to be incorporated. There are a number of other pieces that has to be a part of that park, along with the skateboard park.
Thank you very much. Yes, sir.
Please.
No, wait.
Let me answer to the skateboard park, please. Skateboard park should be a simple enough project for the entire city of Baltimore to accomplish. I don't know why it's a big deal. This is where decision has to come to play. And we have to start holding our elected officials to make firm decisions on issues. Not I have to go look at it, I don't have to go look at it. If there's a plan to build this skateboard park, we should have a skateboard park, period. If we have a plan already signed off by the community, we should have a skateboard park, period. There's no ifs, ands, or buts anymore. That's what it actually takes.
Thank you. Yes, sir, any questions?
This is for Ms. Dixon and Mr. Wallace. Just to start off with that. All right, so I'm a recent Morgan State graduate. For the past 3 years, our homecoming got shot up 3 times. When I first got there, when campus first opened up, my roommates, I was a football player, they was gangbangers. They did their thing on campus. Next year, one of the roommates was charged for murder. When we talk about how the youth and juvenile is the crime within it, what we're not talking about is a disconnect between people of figures of professions outside of what we see in the stereotypical Baltimore City. There's a disconnect with that. 12% of juvenile crimes.
What's your question, sir? What's your question?
Okay, can I get to it?
Yes, please, get to the question.
12% of crimes from juveniles are violent. 65% are misdemeanors. So when my question is for y'all two, how are you guys going to engage the youth and young adults to divert from these plans? Because right now all we've heard about is put security here, put guns here. But as we see in Baltimore, if things want to happen like that, don't nobody care. Because my ex-roommate killed the security guard. So the security guard was there. He killed him. So there has to be a different option. So for y'all how can we connect that bridge from point A to point B?
Mr. Miles, can you address
So let me start and turn it over to Ms. Dixon. So when I was a kid in Cherry Hill, I had a 10 guy posse, right? And we were out there doing things that we shouldn't have been doing. But what made the difference between me and many of my peers in Cherry Hill was that I was able to be exposed to a different lifestyle, a different world. So when I went to Poly, right? So prior to Poly, I was going to school with kids all from Cherry Hill. We were all poor. We were all struggling. I went to Poly, and I was going to school with kids who were from middle class and upper class families. When I saw how they lived, I said, that's what I want. Then the question becomes, how do I get that? And for me, it was engineering, education, start your own business, create jobs. So what I'm saying to you, brother, is that we've got to expose our young people to what can be. See, too often we go back to the past. We want to go what was done in the past. Well, the past is done. It's over. What we got to do now is pivot to the future and show our young people, expose them to success, expose them to wealth, expose them to new economies and new jobs. And when we do that, the young people, they will respond. That's our job as leaders. We got to make that happen.
Thank you, sir.
So I agree with what Mr. Wiles is saying, and I also believe that it also starts in the home.
Amen.
And that we've lost something. So we can say don't go back to the past, but to some degree there are things in the past that benefited those of us who were able to get out of the situations that we were in. And so we have to, yes, we have to expose our young people, but for me, the other piece is, and I always believe that schools are the center of our community, and that we have to create community schools where we bring those partners in the schools from the elementary school on up so that our young people can get exposed early on, but also work with that family. Have those schools open, bring those activities in the school, have those businesses. I work with businesses currently. Have those businesses work in the schools with the families, because that's the connection, so that we can expose them, but also get them to realize that they need to start planning and setting their dreams early. I did the last graduation at Northwestern High School. I'll be real quick. That's the school I went to. They closed Northwestern. We had 1,000 kids that graduated when I went there. 99.9% either graduated, went to college, or work, or military. I did the last graduation. 700 kids entered, 200 kids graduated. When I left the school, this young man had a shirt and tie on. That's why I stopped him. I said, what's your plans? I said, congratulations. He looked at me dumbfounded. I don't have any plans. What do you mean? What do you like to do? He said, I like construction. I said, this is your lucky day. I work with contractors. Give me your resume. He said, I don't have a resume. I said, wait a minute, you just graduated, you don't have a resume? You don't have a plan? But he went back to the school. His advisor helped him put a resume together. He sent me the resume. I sent it out to 2 of our companies. One of them said, I'm going to give you an opportunity for an internship, but you have to go to Jumpstart. He went to Jumpstart. He helped to build the first 21st century school here in the city. Also, you got the wrong jacket on. You got the Cowboys on. I might mess with it.
30 seconds.
What's your question? I just want to be real quick, because when I talk to the youth, let's deal with the here and now, and that is these rec centers need to be open, they need to be functional, and that's what we can do to deter some of this crime. A lot of the things that some of the people talk about is sort of somewhat esoteric, to be quite frank with it. So we need to deal with the here and now and get what's practical and not talk about theories and things that could be and the way it used to be. So I think we need to get it to the point.
Thank you, sir. Yes, sir. Your question.
My question is to Ms. Dixon, because when she got up there, she said that she's the only one qualified to become mayor of this city. My question is because you said that because you were there. So are you saying that Westmore, who's the governor, is not qualified because he was never in office? So if you're saying none of these people is qualified because they ain't been in office, what makes you qualified and they not qualified?
Good question. Good question.
I know I didn't say that, but I'm not going to debate. I did not say that. I'm not going to debate you, but what I said is that right now every department in Baltimore City is dysfunctional. We can't go through a learning curve. We can't go through a learning curve. We need things done like yesterday. Right now, most people in this stage, they don't understand the budget process. They got to learn the budget process.
We have to debate. We all are qualified. And you know what the solution is? Get rid of them. Them department heads are not doing the work they should. You need to get rid of them. And guess what? We all start fresh and new. Because what they've been doing is a bad solution all the way around. And believe me, you were part of it too.
Thank you. Next question.
Hi, I'm Ray. You know who I am. I volunteered for you when you ran for state's attorney. Now you're running for mayor. Can you tell me why? Because everybody in the community is really confused about what it is that you want to do and what can you do. I thought your specialty was to be a state's attorney, and you're mayor. It's like you're jumping around from one position to another. I'll sit down and listen.
It's a fair question. Look, politicians run for office. Brandon Scott ran for lieutenant governor. There are people that run for office. The only thing I've ever run for is citywide office in this city. I think there's a handful of positions that can make the kind of dramatic change that this city needs. I think the police commissioner is one person, but I'm not going to be police commissioner. The superintendent of schools can do the kind of dramatic change, but I'm not going to be the superintendent of schools. I do think the state's attorney can do an awful lot of good, but there is no one who can do more good than the mayor of Baltimore. So let me be clear. It is not a particular office that inspires me. It is the problem that face this city. I think we can do so much good so quickly, but we have to tear up the old scripts and start over again. With all due respect, what we have tried these past few decades has not worked. Things are getting worse, not better. We're the only city in America that is not only losing population every year, we are smaller in 2023 than we were in 1923. There's not a city in this country that is facing that situation. And when you face that situation, you can either have somebody who's going to move things a little bit or go back to an old approach. And if that's what you want, I'm not your guy. But if you want dramatic, radical change, the kind of change that this city is desperate for, the kind of change where corruption and incompetence are not their middle name, but aspirations, vision, a roadmap for how to get there, then I'm your guy. And if you can go to TheRooferMayor.com, let me be clear, 4 years ago, we put out detailed plans on crime, on education, how to fix the rec schools, how to address addiction, how to make sure that we have food deserts addressed with grocery stores, how to make sure that the skate park that the people in a neighborhood wants actually get built. And you go to TheRooferMayor.com and you will see 125 pages of ideas and details for how to get this done. I love this city. I think we can fix it. But in order for that to happen, it can't just be my campaign.
Thank you, sir.
It's got to be your campaign, too.
Thank you, sir.
We have a long, painful, and frankly embarrassing history of cozy relationships between contractors, developers, and our politicians. I would like to offer 30 seconds each to Ms. Dixon, Mr. Vignaraja, and then Mr. Warren. Wallace. Sorry, sir.
Thank you, God.
30 seconds each to explain why and how you were better than that.
30 seconds.
But you know there's other people besides these people.
But they don't want to hear from you. They asked what they want to ask.
The question was directed.
Right.
So,
Well, you want to start? I really want to hear this myself, so you
30 seconds.
I'm going to say two things. First, we are one of the two campaigns on this stage that is using public finance for the first time ever. We can't take donors for $150 from these big developers. I'm the only candidate that I know of that has publicly said that what they're doing with Harbor Place, turning our most precious public space into luxury apartments, is shameful. It will not happen on my watch. And the reason why other candidates can't say that is because those developers are also their biggest donors. Those contractors are also their friends. The people that are trying to do the worst things to Baltimore are the people that they have a debt of obligation to, and we're not going to do it. And I've said with respect to BG&E and everything else, we've stood up when no one else will.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, I would say, man, follow the money. Follow the money. So you look at who's supporting what candidates, who's writing checks for what candidates, that will tell you who they are beholden to. Bob Wallace, I'm the only one up here who has put his own money into this campaign. So nobody owns me. I'm unbought and unbossed, man. Because what I recognize, what you said, you look at that Inner Harbor, look at all the tax money that we put into rebuilding that, and who has benefited? Has has been the neighborhoods, has been Cherry Hill, Westport, Mount Winans, Park Heights? No. So what Bob Wallace is going to do, I use TIF money, but I use TIF money to rebuild neighborhoods.
Thank you, Mr.
To
Wow.
create jobs. Follow the money. If you follow the money, you see what's going on.
Thank you, sir.
Transparency, being honest to the citizens that you represent. Over 600 of the individuals that I received money from were not developers. They were grassroots individuals. Now, Bob can't raise any money. He's put his own money out. He's from Cherry Hill, but nobody in Cherry Hill knows who he is, and nobody knows who he is. Not that one community center. Let me finish. You had your time. You had your time. Nobody knows about that. I've been working out in Cherry Hill for the last 20 years. They had the #1 safe street where crime was down and murders were down to 0. Farouk can't get the money from those individuals who gave it to him 4 years ago when he ran for state's attorney. So yeah, he was doing public financing. But he didn't talk about being a sexual,
you had the last question.
Are we saying people can throw rocks and then leave? Are we saying people can throw rocks at them and leave?
I'm sorry.
If she's leaving, I'm leaving.
No, Bob. Are you kidding me? Bob. Are you ready for this? And this is our leadership. This is our leadership that we are about to get involved.
We allow the closing statement, please. We allow the closing statement.
Okay, please. Can we come back together? We need to come back together, please.
We allow the closing statement.
We need to come back together. Could you get a little please? Come back together, please. Could you get Sheila Dixon back on the stage?
Dixon, come back to the stage.
Can we come back together, please? Okay, we're gonna have each candidate. We're gonna have each candidate give a 1-minute closing statement. No. Each candidate give a 1-minute closing statement, starting with Mr. Wiles.
So folks, let me close. You have 3 options here in the selection. You have 3 options. One option is you could go back to the future and think somehow that that's going to solve all our problems.
Quiet, please. This is not, please. Let's be civil.
Handle emotions. So it's real simple. We got 3 options. One is to go back to the future and assume that that's going to solve our problems. The other is to be content with what we have, the incompetence that we have today. The third option is to pivot and go to the future. That's where I want to take you. into the future. Not the past, not the present incompetence, but the future. This is a key election for us as a city. We cannot handle another cycle, a 4-year cycle of incompetence. We've got to make a decision now. I hope we make the right decision.
Please, let them speak.
1 minute. I agree with Bob that we need to turn a page, and I will be a page turner because I'm not entrenched with what's going on in Baltimore. I would like it to be that we can reduce the drama that has been going on in Baltimore for I don't know how many years. So I'm going to be a very non-drama person. I'm going to concentrate on management, and that's basically it. I'm not going to give a lot of flowery speeches and everything, so you can think about that.
Your name?
Oh, earlier, Donald E. Scoggins.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Harris.
So I used to work at the Mayor's Office of Constituent Services, so I spent over a year listening to constituent concerns, and I know that very few of them ever made it past our office. I will change that. I know how the city government doesn't talk to each other, because I was the liaison to talk to them, and they ignored us at the Mayor's Office. I will restructure, streamline the government, and make sure that transparency happens, because the problem with transparency, none of the agencies talk to each other and get in each other's way. There's 20 different mayor's offices or more that don't communicate. How there's going to be transparency when they don't communicate? You put a public information request in, no one knows where it goes because there's too many mayor's offices. I will change that. I will streamline the government, I will make it functional, and I'll also be as transparent as glass, because I will film myself every day if need be, just so that you know you can trust me as the mayor. And if you have other questions afterwards, please feel free to ask. I know everyone's been arguing over top of each other, so it's been hard to have a civil discourse, but I'm willing to listen to questions.
Mr. Scott.
Hello. After this election is going to be run in the streets.
Please identify yourself again.
Hi, my name is Keith Scott. I'm running for mayor of Baltimore City. This election is going to be won in the streets because the majority of the people that don't vote feel the same way the government is not working for them. So I'm going to be out there talking to every individual, shaking any. Hello? Hello? Anybody who want to listen to what I got to say, community is how we're going to win this election.
Okay.
Sorry.
Finish up.
Winning these communities over, making your community strong enough that you don't have to rely on government to take care of your problems.
Amen.
This is what we need. We need everybody to be connected to themselves and their community. This is how we're going to make change, because the only people who actually matter is you. Thank you.
Amen.
Thanks again, everyone. My name is Chukwu Mekaigo. I'm Runson Independent. Obviously, we can all see the disorganization of today's debate and the contempt from supposedly people who are running for office to their constituents, to the electorate. Hopefully, we can understand that these are people that we don't want to re-elect again as mayor because they're going to take us back where we come from. The simple point I raised to me, there's one connecting factor to every problem in Baltimore is lack of equity in our community. There's no way we can take this community without anyone here articulating to us how do you build equity in the community. Equity is one thing that is missing from our community that everybody needs to survive in any functional society. We're all kind of dancing around the bushes about what we've done, what we have not done. I'm the only one standing here today that has challenged me a few times in court and has been able to change some laws, some policies that make no sense. I did it myself. The banks that are devaluing Baltimore, absolutely. Nobody's challenging those people. I have challenged them in court and I defeated them. We need equity to sponsor our school, to hold our communities together, so that people that live in it can actually have means to functionally develop their neighborhood.
Thank you. Wendy.
Hi, my name is Wendy Bozel, and I've been a director for United Cerebral Palsy, a director for muscular dystrophy, and I worked for Nielsen TV ratings for 10 years, so I had a lot of business experience there. But I changed careers to be a teacher because I feel like teaching and education is the key. So I've been a teacher for 10 years, and now I have to change course because a lot of students have been shot. We've had 100 students shot this past year, 20 of them passed away, and I get the ones that are paralyzed and can't do anything. The whole future has changed. I'm a graduate from Cohen. I got my master's in special ed from there. where I went there at night, got my master's, and the day in the morning, I signed my papers for my divorce, and that night I walked across the stage in Coppin and got my degree. So I will work really hard and tirelessly for our city. And what people don't realize is our school system, the reason why it's not working so well, we have $1.7 billion, and we give $10 million to each, or $20 million to each of the principals and say, okay, all right, you figure it out. They're not CFOs. We need to pull all the money back, and then we can make every school to be a great choice in our city, not just where you live.
Thank you.